Texas.
I'll pay you after I get through. I got that water from me, of course, but...
You got some over there.
Yes, you know, some of us, not me, but some are still a little selfish, self-centered. But I got over that right quick. You know how to get over it, don't you? Accept it. Before we do whatever we're going to do, this, because we never know what we're going to do. And it doesn't make a difference what we do, because nobody hears anyway, so what the hell. I love it. Said, God had a good speaker last night. Really? Yeah, what did he say? Oh, I don't remember, but he's good. Going again next year. Well, one of the highlights of my life and Terry's, my wife's life, I started soon. You've been married 8 years already, and a lot of people have been married a long time. I've been married a long time. I just didn't stay with the same girl. Well, they told me to have an open mind and adjust. Being a senator and being around him last night and his lovely wife, Eleanor, I don't want to cry yet, but it's one of the highlights of my life. You can tell about a man and a woman when they go through something. It's how they are when they go through it. It's not what they go through. And it was, if you weren't here last night, missed a real delight and a real truth about two wonderful people. And I encourage you to get that tape if you weren't here last night. Enjoyed it very much. Now, you have a Kleenex, darling? And I'd like to thank the committee, Dupree, and what's your president wife's name? I just did that, Maggie, for fun. And Bobby and Maurice and Nancy and I won the Braves ball game last night. And I'm glad to meet some old friends, some new friends. And Bob and Ruth have been a friend of mine for a long time. And that's what I love about this deal. Once you're here and get it. And then it continues where you get to meet new people and new things happen to you and good things happen to you. And I love the word trudge. Because we know just a free ride, except we think. It's when you wake up is the problem. You start thinking. And it'll mess you up every time. Well, I am Jim Williams, now I'm an alcoholic. And the reason I'm sitting down is because I've learned to pass out sober. You have to be sober quite a while before that. You have to learn how to do that. You can't get it. I forgot what page it's on, but you have to. I finally developed where I can pass out in 18 minutes. Not 19 or 17, but 18. So in case any of y'all want to know how to do that, well, talk to me after the meeting. What's that deal where you have to have sex all the time? Codependency. Isn't that amazing? You know, we're something else. We are something else. Here we are, brilliant as we are. We go to Hazleton, tell them how we are. They write it down, put it in a book, and we buy it and identify with it. I told my sponsor, I said, "Do you mean to tell me we're that sick?" He said, "Yeah, we're that sick." And that deal now where they have meetings where your parents made you do it, what is it, Alcoa something. Not aluminum, but whatever it is. Well, your parents made you do it. Well, I don't get to go to those meetings because my parents did not raise me to be an alcoholic. They raised me in a little old bitty northwest Texas where it was dry, where they didn't do anything. And they raised me as a southern Baptist. We're the real ones. We're the ones that pray for the Catholics. Well, they drink, you know. The Presbyterians, they knew it was going to happen. The Episcopalians, they just got tired of being Catholic. And the Methodists like water. I think I'd like to have been a Lutheran. They believe in doing everything just a little bit. I was raised in this little old Baptist church, and they'd point their finger at you, you know, and they know you're getting ready to sin. They'd point, going to sing one more stanza for that one, right back there. And your throat would hurt. Finally, I got to be, about 13, which will happen to you if you do what I was doing one day at a time. And I got in the car with this girl one afternoon, and right after school, we drove out in the country, which was about 2 blocks. And we got to messing around, and I got those funny feelings. So I went to the Baptist church and told them about it. We've been meaning to talk to you. See, I knew they had. You know we've been praying for you. Oh, God, yes, I know you've been praying for me. You know, it's not like AA. They said, so in the ditch last night, if he lives, we'll get him. And this bunch, they just hone in on you. They pick you out. They realize, boy, he's got a gleam in his eye. He's getting ready to do it. If he does it, we'll lose him. So they really hone in on you. This guy said, what you need to do is get saved. I said, what from? I haven't done nothing. He said, you meet us before the funeral service. And I met them, and we got back in that room, and they got down on their knees, and they just prayed. And then they said, now when they sing that last stanza, you get up and you come down and you get saved. And they sang that last stanza and pointed right at me, choking. And I come down, it was kind of like AA, except don't give out any chips. They hug you and kiss you and tell you how great you are, and you know you're not, but I liked it. And they throw you in the tank, and the handkerchief leaks, and you choke a little, but you come out all right. Went to school the next day and saw that girl, came. So I went back and told them, I said, we're going to have to do it again. It didn't take. They said, no, you just don't do it. Well, they didn't know. I didn't know how to don't do it. I didn't know how to don't do it. They said, I said, well, how do you don't do it? Think about it. I said, I wonder why I didn't think about that. I thought, well, it's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll just go ahead and think about it. Then when I get tired of thinking about it, I'll get up in the morning and I just won't think about it anymore. Got up the next morning and never thought about it before in my life. I had no idea that I'm the kind of person when I start not to do something, I'm going to do it all the time. And when I start not to think about something, that's all about it. I used to try to wake up real quick before I thought about it. Finally got out of high school. Had to go to summer school. I don't think I was so dumb. I was just always busy. Like the guy said, I came by the car yesterday and spoke to you, didn't even speak to me. And I said, I was having a meeting. He said, there wasn't anybody in there but you. I thought, well, how many do you need? 30 miles away was a wet town, wet county where they had honky-tonks, beer joints. I'd heard about them, so I told this buddy of mine one Saturday, that's why I knew you could do it during the week. I said, just slip over there, and that's all about. And we slipped over and walked in that honky-tonk, and there was that deacon I'd seen all my life, with the warm girl in one hand, the cold beer in the other. I said, my God, let's get out of here. Jesus on us. You know, if you get caught before you do it, you ought to just forget it. He said, well, he can't tell anybody. I said, he got a better shot with Jesus than we do. However, he was happier than I had ever seen him. And I liked the girl he was with on Saturday night a lot better than the one he was with on Sunday morning. I thought, by looking at him every Sunday morning, that deacons were just sad. Now I know, hell, he's just tired. We drank 2 beers, didn't taste good, didn't feel good, and I was glad to get out of there. I thought, man, I'm going to go to Sunday school and church in the morning. I'll bet you get old enough you won't have to go. There he was, sad like he always was. Then I had my first spiritual awakening. Maybe you can do it a little bit and just don't tell anybody. God, I couldn't wait to tell my buddy. Next Saturday we're going back with his big town, had 2 joints, went to the other joint, did not see a deacon I knew. Started, even though I knew how to drink, you just drink 1 beer right after the other. Would have committed adultery, but I didn't know much about it. And you know how we are. Think about it all day long, drink a beer and forget it. Or if we do, we don't remember where we did or not. And I did not know that I knew how to do it. You just drink 1 beer right after the other. And you get to feeling good, can't feel it all. Learned how to dance, Southern Baptist, not allowed to dance. Fell down the dance floor, broke my nose. Did it 5 times after I learned how to do it. Waked up the next morning, threw up just like I've been doing it for years. This guy called, said, how do you feel? I said, God, I feel horrible. He said, oh, but you had a great time. I said, oh, well. Then I knew how to have a good time. Just go out and get drunk, black out, wake up, then you know you had a good time. Did not know you drank it any other way. I thought people who didn't drink like I drank didn't drink. Now they're putting umbrellas in them. They don't want any rainwater to get in there, I guess. They're putting fruit in them before I quit drinking. It's not my drink because, you know, too much acid's not good for you. I was over at this little town by myself one afternoon about 2:30. Put off starting to drink as long as I could. And I walked by this post office. And there was a sign out there that said, we need you. I walked in there and they did. They said, have you ever been to California? I said, no, I've been but 30 miles away from home. We're going tomorrow. Really? Yeah. I'm already having trouble. I'm running with kids and going places that I didn't want to go so they'd like me and they never liked me enough. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And my folks would say things like, Jimmy would never want to do that. You already done it once, getting ready to do it again. Things that they'd really say was, Jimmy wouldn't be caught dead doing that. God, wouldn't it be awful to be caught dead doing that? Everything they knew I didn't want to do, I wanted to do, and everything I wouldn't be caught dead doing, I wanted to do, and everything that they knew I wanted to do, I didn't want to do. So I end up signing that piece of paper and going back home and saying, I'm going to California tomorrow. How are you going? You don't have any money. I said, I'm going to, we're leaving in the morning. Well, they looked funny, but they let me go. Went back over there, got in there, we went to San Antonio. That outfit really operated one day at a time. And they're a funny bunch. You get up in the middle of the night, make it quick like somebody's coming. Never did. Then they want to go eat. My God, it's dark. Make you sick eating that time of night, even if you haven't been drunk the night before. And they were scared because they all in groups. Whoever it was decided we ought to take a surprise trip, which means we're not going to tell you so you can't tell anybody and nobody will know where you're going. Well, I understood that. Well, whoever it was that decided we ought to go to China. We're in the Air Force, so we go to China by boat. I think they flew the Navy over and the Marines ran the boat. There's a lot of Chinese over there. They have a few hills and some rice, but they mainly just make Chinese. They're good at it, and they're not interested in doing anything else. They just make Chinese. They lose. They're making so damn many that it doesn't make any difference. Well, after you're over there about 3 weeks, you've seen all the Chinese you'll ever need to see. So I told them I was ready to come back home. We stayed 2 years and came back by boat. My folks says, "Where are you going to school?" I said, "I'm not going to school. Hate school. Dead going to school. Couldn't get out of school and went to school." If you don't have that piece of paper, you won't be. Every person coming out of the service is going to have that piece of paper. If you don't have paper, you won't even be able to apply for a job, let alone get one. Well, I proved my folks wrong. I gutted that thing straight through 3.5 years, made sure that I didn't learn one single. Every course that I took, I knew I was going to pass it before I took it, and made sure that it didn't benefit a human being whatsoever. Talk about you and I. We'll go to any length, even if it destroys us, just to be right. A lot of people won't do that. A lot of people say, "I could be wrong." Not you and I. Only time you and I will ever use that statement is when we're damn sure we're right. And then we might say, "Oh, well, I could be wrong about that." It's having some minor difficulties with women. 10 pretty girls up there, I'll get the sick one every time. I don't know where I learned how to do that. I see some guys, they just go with one girl one night, one girl next week, just change girls. You're not supposed to do. You're supposed to go with a girl that you can be in love with. One that's a pretty girl that you can take home and show your folks, for God's sakes. Can't just go with any girl. Take me about 2 months to find that precious, sick little thing. Then we'd be so much in love in about 2 months, I'd almost have to quit work. Then they'd just deteriorate from there on. When I got there, I thought, this is the greatest place that I have ever been. It's the first time I'd ever been where they had the sick women grouped. And I like both kinds. I like the ones that got sick doing it and the ones that got sick watching him do it. Every place that I worked wanted to work on Mondays. That's my flu day. I don't have the flu on Thursday. If I have the flu, it's on Mondays. And for some reason, evidently, every place that I worked, God wanted me to make sure that they did it properly. Some of those businesses that fired me are still operating and doing it wrong. Which probably means that most of us are too smart to be in business. Finally got out of a job and I couldn't. And the way I'd look for jobs, I'd get up every morning, I'd throw up and I'd spray. And then I'd go fill out one of those forms that ask you personal questions like, "Where you lived the last 10 years?" Well, it's none of their business. Besides that, I like to move around some. Some of the people where I lived move around some. They ain't want to know where you worked. Where you worked the last 10 years, none of their business where I worked. Then you've got to figure out, wonder what they'd like for me to say. Well, you don't know them too well. It's hard to figure out what to put in there. And then the interview lasts about 5 minutes. Then you go out and get drunk and do that one day at a time. I finally say this one place that I knew it was a friend of mine, and I knew they had an opening, and I knew I'd qualify for the job. Walked in that door, the personnel guy's right there. He's standing right there, and he said, "Oh, you're not here for this job." And I said, "Yeah, you don't want this job. He doesn't want this job." I said, "My God, everybody knows what I don't want. Everybody knows it's always the opposite." Also knew there's something about me he'd like to tell me, but he didn't know how to do it. And I also knew that they're going to like it better. So I went out and got drunk and waked up the next morning, threw up, and I said, you know, I've been doing this for about 10 days. I think I'll just take the day off. Went out there, no leg, no piece of toast, went around the beer joint there with the golf course where my spiritual advisor worked. And he says, my God, man, drink this beer. Baptists, we don't drink before noon, that's 10:30. He said, drink the beer. Don't want anybody having DTs out here on the golf course. So I drank about half of it and sprayed the golf course with it. Don't mind spraying if I don't lose my concentration. Start thinking about women or something, it gets your nose, burns. Then you have to drink the rest of the day just to kill the pain. And I already knew how to meditate before I got here. It's when it just be me, God, and the commode. And you say, oh, God. And it's stringy. This is an after dinner talk. And you can't breathe or you'll get it back. So you don't know whether you're staying or going. You know, it's imagine in a hot summertime after you get through that deep meditation, it's time. And I'd always lean over there and that bowl was always just as cool. I told that guy, I said, I think I better go home and lie down. I think I'm really coming down. I didn't get to use those beds with the vibrators in them for 2 years after sober, because I used to vibrate all by myself. And I'm supposed to call on, get in the car every morning, and I'd say, God, I hate to go to that big old hospital, have a hard time finding a parking place. Then when you do, you got to take that kit, go through the lobby, and wind down through the basement. You know that. I'm not going to buy anything anyway. See, you don't even have to park. Just drive right on by. Wait till 10:30, go to the beer joint. Said, didn't buy anything again today. Well, I went home to Houston then, and I went home, and I got in the living room, and I thought, if I commit suicide, those guys that didn't hire worry about it for the rest of their days. They'll see in the Houston Chronicle, Jimmy Williams commit suicide, and they'll never get over it. But I did. I see it on television now. Suicide, call that number. They probably have softer, easier ways. Join our group. We're losing some, but we're gaining all the time. Razor blade then. I didn't like guns because I don't like noise of morning. And besides, they splatter all over everything. Razor blades were popular then. All he ever said was, cut his wrist with a razor blade. What kind of razor? Straight edge, double edge. Where do you cut it? Which wrist? You got two. Which? This way, that way. I knew you couldn't do it in the living room. You get blood all over the carpet. I'm always thinking of others. I went in the bathroom and got my old double-edged razor. I decided if I cut both wrists, then I can bleed and die evenly. Because what if I wrist and the left side died and the right side be alive? What if I backed out half dead and half alive? So I just cut both of them, sitting in there and listening to the drip and thinking about those guys who are going to worry about it for the rest of their days. And the phone rang. What if where I'm going I'll always wonder who that was called? That'd be enough to run you crazy. So I put a Band-Aid on my wrist right quick. You know how police have been trained by ministers. They pick you up about 3 o'clock in the morning, stop you, and they say, never talk about personality change. He'll say, come go along with me. And I said, man, I can't make it. I'm supposed to be home at 7 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock now. I have got to get home. Get out of the car! And you say, by God, I'm not going to do it. Then they really go nuts. And you have to go along with them. This guy said, where were you last night? And I said, I was right here. And he said, no, you wasn't. Then I didn't want to talk to him anymore. I'd already learned, don't ever talk to anybody no more about where you've been than you do. I said, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, you can either come down here or we'll come. I said, well, I'll be right down there. I knew where to go. Been there before. And he knew who I was. He said, well, if I were you, I'd pick you on the way because you're in trouble, brother. And I said, well, that'll take me an extra 30 minutes, but wait for me, I'm coming. God, I love to live with me. I can live a week in a half a day. I've had a hell of a day. Been out the golf course, threw up all over the golf course, come back home, had a beating, committed suicide. Now I've got to have an emergency meeting, and it's only 11:15. I just maybe the Lord is telling me to leave Houston. Maybe I've $6, which before inflation was splendid to start a new career. So I just threw all my old, had a few little quilts and blankets, threw it in the car and just had a little two-door car, and I put it all, leveled it all out. Had one piece of furniture, an old lamp, a lampshade. I guess I was going to care to find the plug. Mailed the key to the folks, got in the car and took out of Houston, and stopped by and got a pint of bourbon just in case my health got bad. Waked up the next morning in Brownwood, Texas, and had $7. And I said, wonder how my folks are getting along. It's when you intuitively know it's time to call home. So I called collect so they'd know it was me. They lived, and they said, what are you doing in Brownwood? I gave them my favorite statement, just out riding around. Well, why don't you come by to have a cup of coffee? So I did. I never shortchanged my folks. They're not going to get their money back. So I always gave them my very fine rate. In fact, I got to listen to it, and it was so horrible, hell, I cried with them. I thought, my God, if I'd known I'd left Houston 3 years earlier. So John said, well, Jimmy's honest, let him have 100. Whew, but 107, listen, happy time. But I knew I had to sweat that night out, and I knew I couldn't drink. So I never took my clothes off, went in that bedroom and closed that door, and I walked that floor and lay down until finally daylight came. And when I started to leave at daylight, my aunt was up, and she says, there's one little thing I left out last night. While I was in Houston having all that trouble, I was drinking some. But you never have to worry about me again. I shall get as long as I live. You'll never have to worry about my being underfinanced ever again. And my folks still look at me just like, when I got in AA, I'd been in AA about a year, and I went back up there and I said, do you remember that time? She said, which one? She said, well, I think I remember. I turned around and John said, what do you think? And he said, he's 33. He'll never live till he's 35. They thought when I would leave, it could very easily be the last time it. Well, I went right out of Fort Worth, didn't know where to go, and I remembered I helped a guy get a job in the Rio Grande Valley, never been there, understand they had palm trees and everything down there. So I said, went right out of Fort Worth, stopped at a filling station, happened to sell beer. How far is it to Waco? 79 miles, let me have 3. The Rio Grande Valley, and this guy did not let me come to his home. I can't understand that. But there's a drunk running an old hotel that they had a trade out with, and they put me up in this old rickety hotel. I stayed there 3 weeks, never took my clothes out of the car. Every morning I get up, come down a rickety elevator, go across the street, get my short shirt cut, and change clothes. And I stayed there 3 weeks, and they hired me. Now, they don't hire you in the Rio Grande Valley because they want you. They hire you because nobody comes out there looking for you. They go down there to play or go to Mexico or to snow dodge out of the Midwest. They don't go down there looking for jobs. Usually with a job, I could just get drunk and not drunk. And I'd work 7 days a week till I'd get up into my place. Sometimes they'd have somebody in my place to get him fired. That happened there. It took me 3 months to get it done. And then I got into my place, and where I could level off and do my little deal. I also knew there's something wrong because here I am being true to one woman at a time. And they go to pot, then there you are walking around in love with no. So what I need to do is get a number one and a spare. And it's hard to do. It's hard to court drinking. About 10 o'clock in the morning. If you're not doing anything, let's go somewhere tonight. About 7:30 be okay? Yeah, be fine. Might be 4 or 5 days before you get by there. And my weekends were like this. I'd work Monday through Saturday noon, go to the golf course, have a heavy lunch like a sickies cracker, blackout, be home in bed, blacked out, 6:30, 7:15. Wake up, 10:30, 11:15, to my beer joint, close it at 1 o'clock then is when they close. Then whoever my best friends were at the time, we'd go on over to Matamoros, Mexico, and spend the rest of the evening. Then when daylight came, sometimes we'd have a little Wavis rancheras and throw it up, or we might skip it. Drink beer on Sunday, either way, and taper off into Monday. I made Monday, and sometimes I missed it. Well, this particular weekend, I traded off with a guy, and I'm up on Friday night, and I'm over at number one's house, blacking out about 11 o'clock. I'd never mentioned number two. And I just merely mentioned her name, thinking I might drop by and see her on the way home. Evidently, she wanted it. And I said, well, I've got to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom. She followed me in there. Bad place to have a meeting. Need there where they got couches and carpet and beds. Don't go in there where they got lavatories, commodes, and bathtubs. I don't remember what happened. Next morning, I'm living in an old green trailer in an alley behind a motel. I had the rock yards a long time before they started putting them in. I'd see the weeds come up there and say, you'll never make it. They only got one door. And I've already learned how to wake up in total fright in my own bed, let alone somebody else's. And I'm laying there and something goes, what? God, I jumped up, looked down, still had my clothes on, and I said, I bet I was going somewhere early this morning. Kept beating on that door, and oh, my knots all over my head. I've wrecked my car. I have wrecked, that's the police. I've wrecked my car. Kept beating on that door, and fight. You can't get out of those trailers. You got one door, and the window's about like that. There's no way to get out the back. So I finally opened that door, and that 6'4", 200 Baptist preacher said, come go along with me. I said, preacher, I know I look like I'm ready, but I'm not ready. I don't know where the meeting is, but I can't make it. I cannot make it. I cannot. Get in the car. God, they talk to you terrible. Preachers and police talk to you terrible. So I got in the car, and I said, preacher, I'm going to have to have a beer. There'll be no with the meeting. I said, preacher, you got to stop the car. I've got to have a beer. Preacher, I am not breathing. Preacher, I am not breathing. Preacher, I can't breathe. I've got to have a beer. I'm not breathing. Do you know Baptists give a damn whether you can breathe or not? Drove up in front of her house, so I assume the meeting's going to be there. So we walk in, and she did look like she might have fallen in a bush or something. And my little blood, and I got 4 knots. My forehead is knots. So I said, I've got to go to the bathroom. I went in that bathroom, looked in that mirror, and I'm going to tell you something. He won. I'll never know what really happened. What I think really happened was I lost my equilibrium in the bathtub, and she stomped me. 2 weeks later, we got married. We got married at the First Baptist Church. We got married at 10 o'clock in the morning, so there'd be no drinking before the funeral ceremony. I told her, since I had before and I was pure, that it wouldn't be necessary for us to invite a lot of people, but she could invite a few of her close friends. And so about that night, I'm blacking out, so I start calling my friends. They said I quit around 3. When I got there, she was already at the church, and I started to cross the lawn, and here, beer distributor golfing buddy saying, wait a minute, as your best friend, I got to talk to you. We know both of you. We're not here to get married. We're here because we don't believe it. And I'm going to tell you, if I were you, I'd forget job and everything, get in that car. He said, the longest bet on your marriage is 3 weeks. But I showed him. I hung it in there for years. But my life changed. I had no idea how nice it was to get up and throw up in peace. Go in that bathroom, I was always going to quit smoking because it made me gag in the morning. So I'd grab those cigarettes, grab that coffee, and go in that bathroom, lock that door, and she'd tell me what I was through that door. To get upset, go make the living, get drunk, come home and tell her what she was. We did that one day at a time. Back that preacher, and I said, preacher, this thing is not working. He said, you know what's wrong with you? You're missing the beauty of life. Yeah. Did you know the fruit trees are in bloom? I said, no. What you need to do is go home and get your wife and get in the car and drive and smell the aroma and look at the blossoms. I said, yeah. Got in the car, went over, opened the door. The car! What for? We're going to go look at the blossoms. The blossoms? Yeah, we're missing the whole day. She got in the car, and I went by and picked up a 6-pack of beers, started up the valley. Saw a sign, said 14 miles, to turn left, went to Matamoros, switched to Keela, blacked out, missed the whole damn thing. Lost that job and could not, and I went all over the country for about 2 months looking for a job. And finally a guy, if there was one other guy drunk and was a drunk like me, it was this guy. And he managed a drug company. And he hired me and he shipped me to Fort Texas. He said he sent me out there to learn the drug business. He sent me out there because nobody else would go. Fort Stockton is out in West Texas, little trees about that high. You can see California on a clear day. 536 there, and 36 of them were making a living. I joined the 500. Now I'm supposed to stand in a drugstore and hold a pad, and between those lines, when the pharmacist calls out aureomycin, and you can't do it, moving. You just can't do it. And I'm standing there, he's calling it out, and I'm moving. And he said, my God, you look like you're going to fly apart. I said, any minute. He said, well, this was before Valium. I understand Valium, both eyes crossed, you walk straight. This was just Librium, which is really nothing. Little old bit, two-tone green and black and two-tone green. There's really little old bitty things. I took 2 of them, waited 15 or 20 seconds, nothing happened. I'm used to something and doing something, didn't do anything. So I took 3 more. Then my knee just go, huh. And I thought, I know how to weave, now I've got to learn new stance. Y'all have ruined the drug business. I used to get them for nothing. Say, Jim, I'm a little short of 10 milligram, 25 be okay, be fine. They don't know we don't go by milligram, we go by size. So I took Librium daytime, drank beer at night, and when I get to the beer joint, if I'm going to go home early, I just drink 3, and after the 3rd beer, I decide whether I'm going home early or going home late. If I'm going home early, I put a pint of bourbon on top of those 3 beers and that Librium, and went home blacked out like I go home. I'm going to spend the night, till midnight, I'll stay there till the beer joint closes, and I'll go home like you're supposed to go home, blacked out. Ideal evening was when I blacked out right at the door. Sometimes I'd be a little early. And sometimes I'd have to have 1 more drink to black. But I'm a good blackout driver. Never had a wreck blacked out. Bad drunk driver. It's on the card what stage I'm in is how fast I go. I slow down sometimes, and sometimes I speed up. Sometimes things are not even moving. And guy offered that hadn't seen me in 15 years, recommended me to a company I didn't know anything about, didn't know what they did. And I got the job. They sent me back to Houston. Had no reason to just got it. Had no reason to go with it, and don't have any reason to it today, but I'm still with them. That was the 1st of 1965. And, what's her name and I set up battle. And we finally developed such a nice, sweet, deep hate for one another that we were really kind of safe because the one that died first won. But it was best we sleep in separate bedrooms because it's not too safe. And my new customers never saw me drunk till the day before Christmas Eve in 1965. I played golf, administrators and their in-laws and outlaws, and I got a little too hospitable. I went to their home afterward to meet all the ladies, and I blacked out, and I didn't remember just spots. I drove from one side of Houston, the other blacked out for me. And I've done it many, many times, but always when I was at some, and I got drunk, I'd call back the next morning, sure I'm sorry about last night. And they would always say, oh, Jim, you just got drunk. I wanted them to tell me what I did. They always said, Jim, you just got drunk. And I knew. Nobody called me an alcoholic. The only drunk that I knew, one guy named Old Bratch, who slept downtown in Crowell, Texas. He always talked about how awful he was and what a terrible person he was. And he was drunk and always slept downtown. And that drunk got to be that word, and I got to be him. And I guess I heard it on the radio. Oh, what's the name? Had gone. That's what's the name number one. Had gone next. They were going to have a Christmas Eve party, and I guess I must have heard it on the radio because I picked up the phone book and looked under Alcoholics Anonymous and called in a group. And the gal acted like she's glad I called. I should have known then I had the wrong number. And somebody would be right out. Well, hell, I waited an hour and nobody showed up, looked in the icebox, had beers, and it's 10:15. I thought, well, I'll just call and tell them I don't need them. Was a call. About that time, the phone rang. Guy said, I'll be right there. Well, if I need him, he hung up. I thought, well, I'll just get rid of him. He came by himself and moved to another place. His wife was managing these apartments when I moved in. He knew who I was. He used to watch me going back to 7-Eleven saying, we'll get him. So he came by himself, and I looked out that book under his arm, and I said, oh, my God, we're going to read that book. And I've not only been baptized, I've been rededicated 10 times. He came in, I don't know what he said, we didn't read the book. I don't know what I said. About that time, what's her name, number one, came back in. He said, you want to go with me? Well, I didn't with her. So I got in the car with him, and we hit that old 610 loop in Houston. I said, my God, I've made a mistake. I've gone off with a perfect stranger. He's not my kind of guy. I should have taken my car, even though his was much better. And I thought, I'll buy a beer. And he said, I don't want a beer. I thought, God, I knew it. So I waited about 2 seconds, and I said, well, you're either going to have to let me out on top of this freeway, and I'll go over there and get me a beer, or you got to take me over. I got to have a beer, and I got to have it right now. And besides that, he said, can you wait till we get to the club? Oh, yeah, I can do that. I can handle total fright if I got a little light. It's when you light you can't handle the fright. So we drove them kind of a bad neighborhood, and drove them to this old rickety-looking house. I said, this it? He said, yeah. When I get some money, I'll help these folks. Walked in there, and there's a bunch of the deacons sitting over there talking about women in the stock market, and I found they didn't know anything about either one. Back there in the back, they had an old bar with an old piece of linoleum on it because it had holes in it. And the bartender, he didn't look a hell of a lot better than I did. Program of attraction, you know. And this little deacon said, mix him up a little milk and honey. I said, my God, what do you put in it? Anything like that in my life. He said, well, you see, you're nervous. I said, hell, that's what I've been trying to tell you. And Brett, you're used to sugar in your system from alcohol, and the honey has already been digested. I said, indigestion is not my problem. Right, you don't have indigestion. So I drank half of it, and it curdled and came right back up. Worry about it, we have plenty. Thought, hell, I'm going to put on a show for these guys. One of the smart walk, all you want to. Hell, I didn't want to walk at all. They just sit there and watch you go by. It's like a tennis match. We got a new animal in here today, and it's walking, drinking that sweet. God, I couldn't believe it. I hadn't had a piece of chocolate pie in 10 years. Sweet. About 4:30, he said, well, I guess I'm ready to go home. And I said, yeah, let me out a couple of blocks before I get you. I'd slip in there and get my car, go get some bourbon, because beer would not cut that sweet taste. He said, don't drink anything. I'm going to pick you up in an hour and a half. I said, what? We're going to a meeting. I said, where? Right back where we came from. But my God, we was there all day. I got out and walked, and here he comes, and back over there with a funny bunch. I saw a few of them kind of laughing, hugging, and kissing. The rest of them, they didn't like they was too damn happy to be there either. Then they got up and said a little old prayer. Can you imagine alcoholics? And then some girl got up and talked 2 or 3 hours. I know. They said 30 minutes, but I know it's longer than that. And they would just laugh. The damn thing funny. Nothing. Some guy got up and talked 2 or 3 hours. Just said 30 minutes. I did laugh. I said, I'm going to tell you, this sick bunch of people. Then he get up. They all get up and hold. Can you imagine this? Get up and hold hands, say the Lord's. Can you imagine that? All of a sudden, the Holy Spirit moved in there. Every one of them got the same time, nobody listening. I said, I wonder how he did that. They didn't sing any songs, lay any hands, do any kneeling, didn't do nothing. I said, tomorrow night, I'm going to keep my eyes open and see what he did. Me and the deacon stand over here by the door. That's the deal. Men and women holding hands, laughing and talking, put in those cars and taking off. Well, I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there. Uh-oh, that's it. Once in a while, go have a little drink and talk about this damn thing. We went night after night after night. Nobody invited us anywhere. I've got the deacon that nobody likes. It doesn't rain in Houston, it just falls out. So one night it's just raining. He said, I'll pick you up in 30 minutes. I said, it's raining. Go get a drink, it's raining. I'll be ready. One week, what's the name, was going back to the valley, see if we had any friends left. So I just went home, closed the door, pulled down all the shade, down all the lights. Didn't have anything on with the TV set. That old phone just rang, let it ring. Next morning he said, well, where were you last night? I said, I was right here on television, enjoyed every damn minute of it, and I may do it again tonight. May do it all weekend. He said, well, you missed it. I said, what did I miss? He said, I don't know. Wasn't you there? He said, yeah, but I only heard what I was supposed to hear. We'll never know what it was you was supposed to hear. Thought, my God, every night you'll miss it. I went every night, 3 months got drunk, every night, 3 months got 3 months got drunk, and I sobered up all by myself. And I had heard some people were just heavy drinkers, not alcoholics. I'm really just a heavy drinker, and my really real problem has ever been, I've just been underfinanced. Get properly financed, I could tell them all to shove it. But first things first, I need to go officially resign and say thank you very much. So the meeting had already started after the meeting was over. And evidently, I'd called him one morning about 2:30 while drinking. I doubt that. They've been sober longer than you, and they'll tell you anything, I think. I'm on the way to tell him that I'm resigning, and thank you very much. I just don't need you, and I'm just not one of y'all. Before I could tell him, he said, don't you ever call me again. God, I'm glad you said that. I never called you in the first place there. And I'm going to tell you something your best friends will not tell you. Nobody likes you here. We don't hide it anywhere, and they don't know me, so it's got to be you. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm going with you for almost over 9 months. I'm going to tell you something. If I had as bad a personality as you do, I'd go back to drink. And you don't ever have to worry about seeing this face. Ever guarantee you, you'll never, ever hear a phone call from me if you're a human being on earth. And I left. And he didn't till the next morning. And I called him and he said, meet me at the club. Walked in the club and he said, get your coffee. They talk to you like a dog here, you know. And I'm going to tell you something about alcoholics, non-altina, altotin, dog. Absolute failure here. Never has, never will, impossible to, and cannot fail. There never has been, never will be any failure here, provided you do exactly what we tell you, the way we tell you to do it. So now there's only one thing that you're going to get to do the rest of your days, but you're the only one that's going to get to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. You're not going to get to do anything else. You're going to get to decide every day whether you're going your way of life or our way of life. If you don't give an alcoholic a decision to make, on the same subject for years. So we're going to give you a decision to make this morning. You're either going to go our way of life, back out that door. I said, I don't want to do either one. He said, I didn't ask you what you wanted to do. I asked you what you're going to do. I said, do you mean tell me you don't care whether I want to or not? The group doesn't, nobody cares? Nobody cares. Well, if you make it perfectly clear to the group that I don't want, then I'll do it. He's always got to get some things straight. It's your thinking that's wrong. I said, how is wrong? We always start with all of it. And if there's any good, we'll let you know. I said, you put a sign up there on the wall that says, think, think, think. And he said, that's for us. He said, now, things not to do and some things to do. The things going to give you to do, you'll just add to. It's going to give you not to, that's going to change. Then it's going to happen over there. I said, what's going to happen over there? I don't know, but it always happens. I said, I'm going to tell you something. I've been listening to you and listening to you and listening. I want you to hear me. I do not understand. He said, and don't you ever forget it. So there's two things you must remember for the rest of your days. No matter what's going on in your life, do not understand. Then you'll have understanding. And when you can understand, then you can enjoy it. And the other thing is, no matter what your situation is, whatever the situation, it's never them, never her, it's never God. It's you that must become. You must become different than you have ever been before. I said, how? He said, oh, you can't. I said, what the hell you tell me for then? He said, that's what's going to happen to you. He said, now I'm going to give you the kicker. This is the very one thing that got you here. But the very one thing that, should it not change, will be the very one thing that's going to keep you from getting all the things that God has for you. As long as you know that you know, you'll never know. But when you begin not to do and do, and begin to know that you don't know, then you'll begin to know. I said, hell, you're a Christ. He said, I know. So now, since you don't know how to not do anything, the thing we're going to learn how to do is not drink or take a pill. You know that phone numbers I gave you that has my number and 4 other men, no women on mine. When you get squirrely, before you take a drink or a pill, no matter what time of day or night, call one of those numbers. If you don't make the phone call, you did not do it. You must make the phone call. Even if you did not drink, you must make the phone call. And this is every day. When you get up in the morning, first thing, get down on your knees and say these words and these words only. God, take me today, do with me fit. Let thy will only be done in my life, and help me to death take a drink of anything alcoholic or a mind-changing drug. Amen. Do not need to tell God what he has not done, what he needs to do. God can handle that all by himself. I don't know how it is out there, though. I just noticed they have the lights on. I hadn't noticed it before. You don't need to tell God all the things that God needs to do and that he has not done. Call me before you go to the bathroom. Why before you go to the bathroom? You may not need to go. Tell me that you don't think I've got sense enough to know when I need to go to the bathroom? He said, we'll find out. They don't give you a lot of credit here, you know. So I got on that, before I got down on my knees next morning, I said, God, I prayed to you all my life. And you know he doesn't know. He's a Presbyterian. But we're going to do everything this time just exactly like he says. So when we get enough this time, we're going to take ourselves and leave this whole bunch town and all. But I'm going to do it just like he said. Don't like him anyway. So I did the little prayer, made sure I need to go to the bathroom, called him. He didn't email or not. He said, go to the bathroom, meet me at the club. I made the club, and he said, now go to work. I said, I hate my job. Couldn't even go to work yesterday. He said, what'd you do, sit in the chair and think? I said, well, till noon in the club. He said, you don't know how to go to work. I said, how? He said, go get in the car. Write that down, we'll catch it. Then he said, well, later on when we learn more about it, we can invite God into more. But in the beginning, besides that, when you get in the car, you say, you invite God into the day. I said, how do you do that? He said, you say, God, I invite you into the day. Put that on the card. You got it. Then you got to go to work, which is hard on us. And then you have to come back to the club, and there they are sitting there, the big shots. And you walk in, and they say out loud where everybody can hear, sit down with us. Hell, I know to get my coffee and sit down, but they got to make sure that the idiot does not have such coffee and sit down. When you can't figure out anything they're talking about. And then he says, time for you to go home and eat supper and come back to, I know to go home and eat supper and come back to the meeting. But they have to say it out loud where everybody can hear it. Then you come back to the meeting, he said, now go home, get on your knees and thank God for the day. I said, I do not thank God for the day. Hate AA, hate her. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. He said, oh, when you pray to God, you don't mean it? I said, that's right, and I'm not going to do it. He said, that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Action that you're taking that you don't know you're taking, that's going to cause all the things to happen that you had idea was going to happen. And once you take the action that you don't know you're taking, and all the things that are going to happen that you had no idea was going to happen, the things that you think will have to happen will never need to happen. Well, hell, I understood that, for God's sake. You mean to tell me that God does not care? You don't care? They care? Nobody cares whether I mean it or not? He said, not a bit. I just went home, locked the door so what's her name couldn't get in there. Got down home. Okay, by God, God, thank you for a miserable damn day. Amen. Hell, if he don't care and they don't care and God don't care, hell, I don't care. Did that for about 2 weeks. 2 months. And I'm driving one morning around 15 in that old 610 loop right above Memorial Drive, and that I had never known as my friend moved into that car with me. And for the first time in my life, I knew something different than before. I knew I would never need to take another drink of anything or a mind-changing drug unless I myself insisted upon it. And I knew God stay with me all that day. I thought about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to get me a tent and some tambourines. Oral Roberts and Billy Graham better look out, because Jim... I'm going to go save those. Couldn't wait for that guy to get back. I thought, man, I might even let him go and put up... He walked in there and I said, get your coffee and... The Baptist has taken over. Well, those big shots don't like it coming back at them, you know. But he took him in that other room, and I set him down there, and I got up there and looked right there, told him the deal. And he grinned just a little and said, thank God we've got that over with. Now get started. I said, my God, that took a year. He said, summer sickers. I said, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm not doing anything about my wife. We're leaving everything just like it is. I'll send you to a guy. It's got his all worked out. So he sent me to an Episcopalian you don't know. So this guy said, are you married? And I said, not really. I said, there's a girl that I know, the chemistry's perfect, and they won't let me go with her. She's been sober almost a month. He said, anybody? I said, no, and I'm not sleeping with what's her name. I've been praying for somebody too, and nobody will. He said, don't start up anything. We'll practice with her. He said, don't start up anything. And he said, do you remember when you got to Alcoholics Anonymous? You felt like it was, you didn't fit in here, and you didn't fit back out there, and you felt like you were going through where you were? I said, yeah. If you're willing to go through some periods in every area of your life, continue to do what this way of life says, I'll not only guarantee your relationship with men and women, I'll guarantee your relationship with Almighty God you couldn't even believe possible. I said, I don't believe that. He said, isn't that wonderful? I said, what do you mean? You don't need to. I said, why? He said, it's the action. I said, I've already heard that. He said, what we're going to do, since you do not know how to live here, you do not know how to other people, you do not know how to work with other people, you do not only do you not live with other people, you cannot live with yourself. We're going to learn and let that happen to us. And he said, so what we're going to do, we're going with her. You're never going to tell her what's wrong with her, ever. I said, who's going to tell her? He said, I don't know, but you're not. And you're never going to do anything to get children, to get friends, to get out, to work her around to get her to do what you think she should do. Get her to do what you want her to do. Never, never. And you're going to pray for her. You pray for her. He said, yes, you are, and I want you to learn this prayer because you're going to be in relationships with you, God, and everybody for the rest of your life. God, thy will be done for her as well as for me. Take our relationship, let it be what you want it to be, and show me. You may have to say that a day, but every time you think about your relationship with her, every time you think about it, you say that prayer. After about 2 or 3 months, that old sex, love, lust. Before that, I said, you ought to take her to Al-Anon. My wife's already been taken. Al-Anon, if y'all are here, I want you to know I love you, I love you, I love you. She found you depressing. The more she went to see you, the more you depressing. If there's anything I can do for y'all, call me day or night. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. About 3 months later, that old love, lust, sex thing, sir, and I couldn't get rid of it. I told my sponsor, told him, finally told the group. And one of them was supposed to tell that in the group, so I went over and told another group. And snitched on me. You know, we don't gossip here, we're just concerned. So my sponsor said, we're so tired of hearing about that thing you've got. Said, usually when you stop acting just like acting on the blues, even though that was only a symptom of your problem, stop taking action on one of your difficulties, God transforms your mind and relieves you of it. But that's not happening to you. So evidently, you've got to do that different for this one thing. What's her name's out of town? Go home and stay in that apartment, and you and God wrestle till you get this straightened out. Well, I didn't want to go to work anyway. I went home, closed the door. He said, don't call me. Don't call anybody. See, they can never make up their mind. One time it's call them day and night. Now don't call them at all. Everybody's trying to give his problem. And I prayed and cried and cussed, and about like at night I went to sleep, and the next day that thing was different, been removed. I thought, well, they're so smart I won't even tell them about it. So after the 4th meeting, we were all at the round table eating ice cream, and I said, well, I guess you only said all we knew at the first night. I said, why didn't you tell me? Well, you need to always be the last to know. I said, why is that? And he said, well, after I found the truth about my first marriage, which was just nothing, you know how to get sick, make something out of nothing. I got a divorce, and I married me a Southern Baptist so it would work. She didn't know anything about alcohol. You can trick them better that way. And that didn't work, so can you believe this? A Southern Baptist, this cannot work. Not work. Yankee, Catholic. Al-Anon could have been in our favor. And, of course, concerned about it naturally because she was younger than I am, and my Southern Baptist, most all women are younger than you. But I did get to find out what marriage is all about and what it's about in charge. And we have that today. Wouldn't you hate to miss it? You know, we're very blessed, the ones that are here tonight. We're in the minority of us that got here tonight. It's amazing that I stayed here long enough that I found out with your guidance and your help that come in my life and continue to transform my life into what I had no idea was there. And that I know some things about you and I, and there's no telling what's available. We're in the place for that to happen. You see, I know that God chose you. I don't know when, maybe before we were born, I don't know. But I know He did. No other way for us to be here. And I know no matter what my life does, after He got me here, it was solely my life. It's always been under His direction. No matter what of me, or what I thought of the world, or what I thought of you. I thought of all the people that I came along the walk to be. God, full charge of my life and yours. No matter how it was to turn and whatever was to happen to me, God was in charge of our lives, the shadow of a doubt. There's no way you and I, we did ever could unknowingly to destroy ourselves. We could not do it until God's time for you and I is going to be. If it hadn't have been for God having us in the palm of His hand, no matter what we were doing, we wouldn't have made it. We were in places and moments and times with alcohol and drugs. No human being could even live through it, let alone the car wrecks, things. So without a shadow of a doubt, whatever our life was to bring, our life has been chosen by God. Maybe everybody's, I don't know. I don't know else. But I know some things about you and I. God promised that He'd create a kingdom for His people because He cannot fit in the world. So He's created that kingdom just for you. He wrote a book just for you and I because our lives had geared to the total commitment for Him. He had to be in with some people who came from every walk of life, leaving out so that you and I could be in His kingdom that He designed to fulfill His purposes. And the majority of that time, we have no idea what He's doing. But one day at a time, we can begin to know Him better, and He can be fulfilling our lives more, as long as we continue to go through these experiences of giving up our lives and offering on a daily basis to meet with you and talk to you. Isn't it amazing, without a shadow of a doubt, people have a clue of what's going on in their life, call another human being, and without fail, God reveals Himself to us. Without failure, it's happened. How does anybody ever know at the meeting what's going to be heard? Sometimes we hear things that's not even, yet God's talking to you and I all the time. Everybody has the Holy Spirit designed for His people. We now have the privilege of walking the walk that God designed just for us. Each one of us are going to have to walk down our sidewalk, individually and together. We're going to go down the sidewalk that's just for God Himself. Our biggest thing seems to be going along that sidewalk, and we could veer just a little, and we walk off. We're still living the way of life, no matter what goes on in our life, no matter how bad or how good it seems to be. See, nothing is occur or we're going to be touching that God isn't involved in. Remember, God takes things that looks like sometimes it's terrible, should not be, and a lot of times it's not fair. It is unfair. At times it's not right, according to the world. But remember, God's thoughts are different than mine. God's thoughts are different. His thinking and His ways are higher than ours. So I must be living a life that is unknown. I cannot do but one thing to prepare myself for whatever tomorrow is what I do today. Then tomorrow's taken care of. I'm living the way of life that He's given me now, and I'm in that place, and He's touched every one of us. Without a shadow of a doubt, my healing spiritually, and everything else will follow. You and I have one of the finest privileges that any human on this earth can have. No matter what this world does, no matter what happened to it, just look what's happened to you and I this weekend. With you and I walked in here Thursday and Friday, been together, had some of the finest meeting we could ever, been with new people, didn't know each other, but knew each other. And we walked in here without failure because everybody here was brought by God himself. And nobody knew who was going to be here if we need to. Because, see, you and I now live in that one that has become active and conscious to us. It could be conscious to us before. And you and I now live in that one power comes everything. This one power that you and I live in today, that never fails us. That one power that only God's children have. Only God's children live in that power. And it never, when you and I call one another, when you and I meet together, just like it is right now, when I can feel you loving me, loving you. Thank you very much.